Okay. Did you post it? Let's see.
Good. I did post it and I
Okay.
tagged you.
Okay, so I'm, oh yeah, this is better. Okay. Cool. No, I will. Okay, I'm going to take this one down. I'm going to take mine down. Remove. How do I? Oh, why isn't this just saying delete? Oh, no. Because that's bad.
1 minute.
Okay. Well, it's just, it has the card on it, right?
Yeah, that's what we have right now, and then it'll change to the animated in a moment.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to get off the phone. We'll do the WhatsApp.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay.
Since the American Indian hasn't been able to hear his voice heard or have his voice heard anywhere in the history of the United States, I felt that it was a marvelous opportunity for an Indian to be able to voice his opinion to 85 million people. But I don't think that people generally realize what the motion picture industry has done to the American Indian. I don't think that people generally realize what the motion picture industry has done to the American Indian. What the motion picture industry has done to the American Indian, American Indian, American Indian, American Indian.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 25th RNCI Red Nation International Film Festival. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this incredible, exciting Red Nation Lab today. These are native film labs of different sorts that we've been producing over the last 25 years. And we're real excited today because we have a guest that's new to us, but not new to all of you, most likely, or maybe some of you. But we're excited to have her. And before we dive into it, I'd like to share with you this year's virtual festival. Please visit rednationff.com for all 16 festival events. And we have 106 films this year, 36 directed by women. That's 13 more than last year or the year before. So that's really exciting. 12 student films. November 15th is our RNCI Red Nation Awards, and tickets are on sale. There's really limited spots. So I'd suggest that you get a ticket now to reserve your spot. We have a fundraiser. It's on November 29th, and it's our Red Nation Celebration Concert series, Artists in Solidarity for Systemic Change Through the Arts. Music has the power to bring us all together. And we have Joe Walsh and Jennifer Warrens and Joanne Shenandoah, and the list is just endless. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's our first fundraiser. So that's, we're just going to have a blast with that. The festival runs from November 1st through the 30th. This is day 2. And this lab is titled Emerging Filmmakers Lab, Business and Marketing Development. Emerging Filmmakers Journey to Audience. We will empower and inspire you. And a session designed to help emerging filmmakers merge their creative and business development via the Global Film Festival circuit. We will be learning about the cinematic trinity, how to translate your creative film language into key marketing language, and be empowered to make your cinematic voice be seen and heard. And our special guest today, drum roll, which I'm very excited to introduce you to, is Kathleen McLennis. And McLennis. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi. There was a weird sort of double, triple feedback.
Yeah. Do you have your sound off of your phone?
Yeah, everything's off. I don't know what happened, so I'm not sure, but everything's off. I've turned it all off.
Fantastic. So Kathleen is founder of See Through Films, and drawing from her 30 years experience in festival programming, film publicity, and producing, Kathleen helps world cinema filmmakers merge their creative and business development via the film festival circuit. As a strategic publicist, Kathleen represents world cinema films premiering at Toronto, Cannes, Berlin, Sundance, and ours, our Nation Film Festival. So welcome everyone, Kathleen McLennis.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And oh my gosh, a 30-day film festival. Like I worked long at the Seattle Film Festival, which was 25 days. And we always called that the festival that would not die. But you've got 30. Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty, Red Nation Film Festival is the first Native film festival in the city of LA, right? In the entertainment capital of the universe, right? Yeah. So we're usually, if we're in person, we usually run for 15 days, but because we're online, virtual, we're going for the 30.
I love it.
Yeah.
Why not? Just take every day.
Yeah.
Why not?
Especially with everyone going out and voting still, and all the undeciders and voting tomorrow, the last day. You'll have, no matter who wins, who becomes our president, you can always return back to us and watch incredible films, inspiring, thought-provoking cinema, Native cinema.
Well, and what a perfect segue, because if you're tired of whatever it is you think you're hearing from our political pundits and people running for office, you can always come back to this festival and actually hear an authentic voice. So,
yeah,
this is going to be the place where you're going to sort of come back down, decompress, I guess, from the craziness that we've been existing in. So
yeah, it's pretty exhausting out there.
It is exhausting. It is.
So let's talk about you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Love to talk about me.
I'd love for you to share with everybody, like, what, you know, how long you've been in the industry. How do you feel about moving forward with all, you know, with this pandemic that we're in regards to filmmakers? And then we'll get into the masterclass.
Sure. Okay. So I've been in and out of the industry almost my whole life, but in film specifically, I started working at festivals 30 years ago. And so the majority of my adult life and the majority of my career has been spent with filmmakers and film festivals. The same year I started as working for the Seattle International Film Festival as the festival publicist for the whole festival. I also started as a unit publicist for production. Those two things went hand in hand. And so in the beginning, I have a background in journalism, I have a background in acting. But in the beginning of my work with film festivals and with filmmakers, I was entering the world through that space where we were trying to use materials to sell a particular film to a public, right? To get ticket buyers to be interested. And when I was working in production, I was trying to create the materials that people like me would then go use to sell the film to a public. So it seemed like those two things were a natural, that they had a natural tie-in. So I worked production as a unit publicist for a very long time. I've never left festivals. I've done that my whole adult life for the past 30 years. But along the way, because I grew up on foreign films and because I worked at the Seattle International Film Festival, which is renowned for its foreign film selection and programming, I love foreign film. I love this idea of voice, and I loved the challenges that I was encountering, trying to use a really good language that would help not just sell the film to a ticket buying audience, but would also help the filmmaker. You know, so often we're talking about filmmakers who are first and second time feature filmmakers, or even short filmmakers who are on the festival circuit. And I remember the barrier to entry for me was stupidly high. The barrier to entry I thought was next to impossible into the film industry. I lived in Seattle. I didn't live in LA. I came in a little bit late. I didn't come straight out of film school or anything. And it just seemed to me stupidly hard to get where I wanted to get to in the film business. And then I realized that barrier was completely of my own imagination. Had I understood the language of the industry, had I understood the coded words I was hearing, had I understood what I was really, what was really happening, like this great drum beat.
Okay. That was definitely a hiccup.
But it was such an impactful hiccup. I kind of loved it. Talking about understanding language and understanding coded words, and suddenly something unfamiliar happens. It was great. But anyway, this is how sort of my emergence as somebody who, because I came from production, because I understood actors, because I lived in the world of publicity, and because I was programming at major festivals, you know, for a very long time. This was sort of the emergence of my belief that there was a way to help filmmakers better serve themselves, take their own destinies into their own hands, and actually understand their film a little bit better with regards to how it gets to audience. I hated it that filmmakers were basically just giving over their work and letting somebody else decide how it was going to get to audience and not reaping any of the benefits. I hated that. So So that's been my focus for the past few decades. And that's why it's so important to me to try to get out to as many emerging world cinema. Right. So emerging shorts, first and second features, world cinema, meaning mostly everybody outside the more mainstream US system, right. Filmmakers.
Wouldn't you say, because of this pandemic, like especially in regards to our American Indian and Indigenous voices and our filmmakers, emerging young talent? I mean, this year we have 12 student films. Last year, the student films were just, oh my God, they were just amazing. Every year they just get better and better with their craft. And I just, with this pandemic, how do you see independent films? I think, you know, I had this discussion the other day with a filmmaker. It's like all these big blockbusters, like there's no theater to go to. Right. So it doesn't, those kind of films really don't work that well on this little screen, right? The sound, right. The visual, right. All of that. So I think indie films are alive and well, and this is a whole new deal for us.
Well, I think that's exactly right. Like the studios are holding back or reconfiguring how they're going to release whatever they're going to release, because they have a different equation that they have to fulfill. They have a different need financially. They have a different need with regards to audience, with tie-ins, with other partnerships. We don't have that in the indie world. We don't have to worry about that, number one. We may want that because maybe it looks like it makes it easier, but it doesn't. But we don't have to worry about that being attached to our journey to audience. Right now, our journey to audience is through whatever medium and platform works best for us, as long as we're prepared to be along for that journey. I don't want filmmakers to simply let the film start its journey and just say, okay, you're on the road. I want the filmmakers to be on that journey as well and to engage, which is one of the things we have to work really hard at right now, is trying to get a way for them to engage with their audience. But I want them to stay with their film, be engaged with their film, derive everything they can out of it with regards to how they merge their creative and their business development, and understand really what they're doing right now is going to set them up really, really well for the next film and the next film. And right. If they are prepared, they can make use of everything we have in front of us right now, whether it's Zoom, social media, platforms. They can make use of all of this to their benefit for the next couple of projects that they have going, if not more.
Yeah, well, one of the things that because of the inclusion, and I really don't like the word diversity, because that's like just like a blanket kind of word. Like, okay, but what I do love is the word inclusion, because that's all encompassing. That's like a full circle. That's everybody invited to the table. That's, let's, you know, hear everybody's voices, see everybody's film, see what's out there. So, you know, Red Nation Television Network, you know, our festival automatically gives distribution to our filmmakers, even the ones that maybe don't make the list to screen, you know, at our festival. Those filmmakers still have the opportunity to be on our television network. So that's real exciting, and I just wanted to put that out there for the filmmakers, so that
that is so great,
so they can hear that, in case they didn't know. But I you know, I'm excited about this, you know, this time that we're in, because like you just stated, there's so many possibilities and so many doors that are open to people of color, and I'm excited to work with you. And I'd like to, Kathleen, if we can go into touching on some points like for example, finding your voice and who tells the story matters is our theme this year. And let's dive into that for a sec.
I love it. I love it. Starting with voice is so important. So just to present my bias first, so everybody understands where I'm coming from. When I was first programming, I was taught how to program by a very, very, very intense man, Daryl McDonald, at the Seattle International Film Festival. And he was the intensity, that's not even quite the right word, because it's even more than that. But it was a big jump into the deep end for me. And he was like, you better learn how to swim quickly. And he said, the most important thing, there's two things to remember. Number one, as a programmer, you represent a section of audience. And if you don't get films up on screen during the festival that represents them, where they can see themselves, then you're not doing your job and you're letting them all down. That's number one. And number two was, your job is to go find those stories about underserved images that we don't get to see very often, that represent people who don't get to see themselves up there. You have to go find them. You can't sit back and just wait for them to get submitted to you. You have to go find them. You have to know the filmmakers. You've got to see who's telling what stories and where they're coming from. And I took that very much to heart. So I'm a firm believer that you are uniquely qualified to tell stories that you have a connection to, that come from really a very deep place. I often tell filmmakers it comes from your gut, goes through your heart, and comes out your head. I truly believe that appropriation is a 4-letter word. And I am an ardent feminist, and I have a lot of anger. I have centuries worth of anger. So I'm like, I don't want to see another man tell a female story.
Yeah.
And every time one of my filmmakers, male filmmakers, says, I want to tell this story about this woman who, I'm like, why are you uniquely qualified to tell that woman's story? If you can't explain that to me, I don't want to hear this pitch.
Right.
So it comes to voice. The question is, why are you uniquely qualified to tell the story that you want to tell? And to understand that, you kind of have to dig deep. You have to think about a couple of things. First of all, what the story is, not what the story is in the plot points. A girl walks into a store, a guy follows her, a dog follows him, and a road movie is born. That's the plot point, right? That's the beginning of a plot point or a story. That's not what I'm talking about, though, with regards to voice. When you're telling me what is the human condition that you're going to speak to in this story? When you say this story that starts out with a girl who walks into a store, the man who follows her, and the dog who follows him, I really want to talk about the human condition that is feeling outcast, feeling as if you're the only one, feeling that you don't have a place to belong, and that you've never known love. Okay, those are big human condition components, right?
Yeah.
And so what I say to my filmmakers is, think of somebody in the middle of nowhere, smack dab in the middle of nowhere, who's never been to a movie before, but who's going to choose your movie to see. When they have no understanding of what a store is, they've never seen a dog, and they don't understand this concept of anything that they see in the first couple of seconds. What is it that's going to make them feel an emotional connection to that film when they've finished your film and they walk out of the theater? If you're telling a story about somebody who feels like they're the other, who's never really truly understood what love is, that is what that person, if you address that human condition in your film first, that's what that person in the middle of nowhere is going to walk out of your film feeling connected to. Doesn't matter if you're this kind of a filmmaker or that kind of a filmmaker. If you've touched the human condition and you've done it well, then you're gonna have a global audience, because you're going to be able to speak to everybody. And the bonus along the way is this person in the middle of nowhere is going to get to see something they've never seen before. Apparently a dog. I don't know. It's an extreme example, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one of the questions I get a lot is, do I have to change my voice to fit in this community of filmmakers? I hear this all the time. I hear this a lot from Native American, Indigenous, sure. I hear it a lot from women. I hear it a lot from people who feel they are not part of that mainstream sort of group that everybody seems to hear about when you read the trades. And my answer, of course, is no. You shouldn't change your voice at all, because it's the only thing you've got.
Yeah.
Uniquely you, and that will satisfy that word fresh. When people are like, I want to see something fresh. Well, fresh doesn't really mean anything at all, except in the context of, I want to hear your voice. Can I hear and see your voice on screen? Because you're the only thing different. And all these stories that are being told is, where are you in this story? How do I see and hear you up on screen? So that's the concept of voice from my perspective.
Yeah, well, that's news to me about the questions you're getting from our community. do I have to change my voice? Because you know, as a filmmaker myself, that's like, oh, never. This is mine. This belongs to me. This is my, you know. That's so fascinating that you would get that question from our community.
But you know what I think it is, if I can interrupt, and I think you and
Yes,
I both
absolutely.
come from acting perspectives. We both
Mhm.
were actors, and so I think we understand this pretty well. As actors, you're rejected any number of times,
Right.
and even though you're told don't take it personally, of course rejection feels personal, right? You're not this, you're not that, you're not tall enough, you're not short enough, you're not thin enough, you're not fat enough, you're not white enough, you're not black enough, you're not whatever enough, right? It's hard to separate the concept of rejection from a person, from being personally affected. So I think filmmakers need to get more training almost in the early days of their careers, whether it's in school or some other place, where they understand rejection really doesn't have anything to do with them. It has nothing to do with them. And so instead of internalizing it and personalizing it and saying, maybe I have to change, I have to change, I have to change, I'm trying to flip that coin. I'm literally trying to turn a tanker in the middle of the ocean. It takes a while.
Right. Right.
So instead of saying, well, he said I wasn't what he was looking for, so how do I become what he was looking for? I want you to say, he said I wasn't what he was looking for, so that clearly wasn't the right date. That wasn't the right match. I didn't swipe right on the right Tinder picture or whatever that is. Right. I'm going to go find the person that I can connect to. I'm going to go find the person who can hear my voice, because that is the right person.
You know, for anyone new out there that wants to be a, you know, that's looking to be starting off, you know, directing their first film, or already has a couple under their belt or whatever, the one thing that I've always told myself is that when there's a rejection or a no, that's my revolution.
Ah, I love it.
Yeah, that's my revolution. It's like, no, okay, watch me. I dare you to say no to me. No.
I gotta admit, I feel you on that one. Like, don't say no to me. Don't say no.
Because I will find a way.
Yeah.
I will find a way. Yeah. And that's, so the bottom line, I think, is that you really have to believe in yourself, even if it's just that one little, you know, place in you that, you know, that, hey, I could be a filmmaker and I'm going to tell my story. Just that little bit, you know, nurture that to where you get to the point where, you know, that no is my revolution.
Well, it's a really good point. That especially though, I think as vulnerable as emerging filmmakers can be, if they don't understand the words that are getting used, if they don't understand the language, the often coded language that they're hearing from the industry, if they don't understand the system, it's really easy to take it in a place, in a personal way that's not going to be useful to you. So it really, from my perspective, it effectively is the same thing that you were saying. I'm just saying, I need to empower those filmmakers to fully understand who they are and to fully understand what their voice is, and then to go find the people who hear them.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to really do, a shift, an entire philosophy shift in the way emerging filmmakers think. I tell this story all the time, but one of the first times a script of mine was picked up by an agency, and for a representation, I remember going into the meeting, and there were the manager who was going to represent myself and my writing partner, and then there's the head of the agency was there. And we pitched the story again. We did it a couple of times, and the head of the agency kept saying, yeah, I get it. This is exactly what it is. My mom's going through the same thing. I feel this really, and he would just go off on how he felt so closely connected to the story. It took me at least 2 or maybe even 3 years to realize he had a different film in his head from day one. And I never recognized, he didn't hear me. He didn't hear what we were saying. We went through, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years development hell on that one. But because he was so sure that the story he had in his head was the story that we would tell, just by a few little things that we were hitting. And of course, we had no idea that he had gone off the rails, as I like to
Well,
say.
right. But wouldn't you say that, and I could be totally wrong, is that it's projecting, like he was projecting onto
Yes.
you
Yeah.
what the film was going to be about. So, because I
Yes.
noticed that even in just, everyday life, like from your background, your storytelling, right? Like I can project onto you, oh, your glasses remind me of my mom.
Yeah.
So now you're my mom.
Yep. Yep.
And so now I only see my mom.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, oh, like, right.
That's
So,
it.
so a filmmaker, I mean, we have to be really crystal clear, right?
It is exactly right. So you have this person who is telling you what they're hearing from you.
Yeah.
And you have no idea, or you don't yet have an idea that it's actually not the story that you want to tell. Two things are happening. Number one, you've tapped into something that's clearly important to him. But number two, you're actually not being heard. So he's not hearing you. At the same time, you're not knowing that he's not hearing you. So it's exactly what you said. You have this double duty. You have to be
Right.
able to actually hear what the other person is saying back to you, that mirror that's going on. And you have to know the story you have well enough and so intimately, and know why it's important to you and where your unique voice is, that you can push back and say,
That's it. That's the bottom line.
yeah, it's a two-way street at that point, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, those are some really good points. So that would be under the next point that we want to bring across, and that's the landscaping.
Yeah. So
Okay.
this is where it's a really good direction to go. This is where I use the cinematic trinity. This is my favorite thing. It's very visual, so I'm going to get ready here.
Yay!
So
I'm excited.
So many of my filmmakers have heard this now. They could probably do it better than I can, but 30 years. So I've been going to Sundance for 30 years, 30 consecutive years.
Okay, we have to talk after.
Yeah, we will. I'm sure we have so many stories we could share.
Yeah.
And somewhere in like year 2 or 3, I remember standing at the library waiting for a film, and a bunch of us in line started talking. And I felt very new. I wasn't sure I had anything to say. And somebody said, "What does everybody do?" And somebody said, "Oh, I'm in the business. I'm in the business. I'm in the business. I do this, I do this." At the time, being in the business for me meant I was a programmer and I was a film journalist. And then the next person to go said, "Oh, no, I'm not anybody. I'm just an audience member." And I remember just being gobsmacked. I'm like, "Are you kidding? You're the most important person in this line, for heaven's sakes."
Right.
So that led to the cinematic trinity. And the way that I describe this, the way I describe it to everybody is, my left hand is the filmmaker as artist, right here. My right hand is audience. And this can be ticket buying audience. That's my thumb right there. Ticket buying audience, but it can also be anybody who's going to consume your content that the filmmaker as artist is making. So it could be programmers, journalists, press, producers, agents, managers, financiers, anybody, that's audience. And right here in the middle, if I don't have a third hand, so it's my head, wherever my nose is the industry as conduit. So pretty much everybody who's over in audience, in the business, who works in the business, except for ticket buyers, also sits here as industry as conduit. And what happens is, as filmmakers, artists, you make your work. There are people in the industry, again, not including ticket buyers, who take your work, right, and translate it into a language that moves that work forward to audience. And now the audience is everybody. So you can imagine you can be 1, 2, or 3 parts of this puzzle at any time. It's all very organic and it moves in all directions and at all speeds. But basically, a filmmaker's work might go through a publicist, a programmer, a producer, a sales agent, anybody who then takes that language that the filmmaker as artist has given them, translates it into a language that the audience understands better than the filmmaker's language, and moves it forward. I want the language from the filmmaker as artist to the audience at the end to have as much of the artist's creative intent intact as possible, right? So the people who are the conduit, they have an agenda. They have their own agenda for the language that they use, right? So I live in this space. I live in this space between the filmmaker as artist and the industry as conduit. And I say, my opinion is, let's translate your creative language here into a marketing language that will serve the industry, but will be so correct for your creative intent that it's impossible for these guys to screw it up. Because that happens more than we would like to admit.
Can you say that again? Just that one
Sure.
part.
I live in this space between the filmmaker as artist, the industry as conduit. I believe that it is important for the filmmaker to work hard in this space to translate the creative language they have into a marketing language that is so that has so much of their creative intent intact that when it moves from here to audience, it doesn't get all screwed up, right? And the reason I want to do this and again, I work with emerging filmmakers, so that's shorts, first and second time features, right? The reason I want to do it in this space is because it really helps define who you are as a storyteller. It really helps move your voice into the industry landscape in a way that really speaks correctly about who you are, but it does so in the language that the industry uses. And that is to your benefit. By the time you get to your third or fourth feature, you have way too many other moving parts. That's really not an opportunity for you to practice this. But if you do it in the beginning, it really serves you as a visual storyteller. The reason that the creative language from the filmmaker can't just be directly attached over, the filmmaker knows too much. Literally, the filmmaker knows how hard it was to get that shot, knows all the materials and resources they didn't get for the shoot. They know what the story they thought they wanted to tell and then the story they had to tell because they couldn't get the actors they wanted, or they got different actors and a different story emerged. We can go on and on and on, but they have way too much in their head. But embedded in all that stuff that they have, if we can pull it out, if I can train them, teach them how to pull it out themselves, are the things that speak to the human condition again. You know, everything that we talk about is in a drive to get to audience. Everything we do with regards to film is a drive to get our stories to audience, right? So what I'm saying to them is if we can pull out those gems and we can fashion that into the language that audiences consume, we can drive to the broadest possible audience. And when you look at that intersection between art and business, right? The place where movies, cinema becomes show business. It's that transference place, that intersection place is where your creative work now becomes a commodity that people judge by how many tickets can I sell to it? How much money can I expect to have a return on investment from this? How do I look at this as an investment in either a future relationship with this filmmaker or a straightforward transactional experience with the systems that I work within, distribution and exhibition, to get this to audiences who will pay for a ticket to see it? So we're literally trying to help expose what happens in the machinery to move the creative impulse to the ticket buying audience. And we're trying to do that in a way so that once exposed, you can adjust. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love the breakdown. I love everything about this. I'm making notes and I can't wait to finish this so I can call you and tell you all my ideas. I have some good ideas coming up. I'm inspired. I don't know about you out there, but I'm completely inspired by Kathleen. This is really gorgeous. And I think that our emerging filmmakers can learn a lot and engage with you in the future on, you know, some other events that we can produce and get together.
I love meeting new voices. That's
Yeah.
how I look at it first. I love meeting
Yeah.
new voices. I love hearing
Yeah.
voices I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
I love pulling out I think the reason I get to do what I get to do, and the reason why I still can say I think I'm good at what I do, I'm still an audience member. I'm still
Yeah.
here as well. I'm
Yeah.
here, and I'm here, but I'm really here. I'm that ticket buyer. And I've retained that ability to just literally sit down in front of a story up on a screen and be
Yeah.
completely transported. I love that.
Yeah. And that's, that's why I love our film festival. And, people like some in the industry go, question me like, how come that film was chosen? It's not like, at this level. And
Right.
and I look at that like, well, what's that level?
Yeah.
Because we may have, our jurors may have chosen that film to screen at our festival because they see the potential, they see the voice that filmmaker has and wants to nurture that. And
Yeah.
that's and so, that's the thing that I love about our festivals is the nurturing component that we have with our emerging filmmakers and our student filmmakers,
Yeah.
which are emerging, but they're still a little bit younger, but they're, oh God. To the one thing I'm going to say is I'm really sad that we can't be in the theater. I have to acknowledge that and recognize that in my psyche because I'm sure it's living in you too. And you drive by a theater and you're going, this is the time that we're all excited. It's award season. It's building up. We're the kickoff of the award season. And with our festival, and a lot of our films from our festival end up getting either Emmys or nominations or Oscar nomination. So we're really excited about the impact that the festival has. And now with even reaching out with someone, like you and other industry relations, we can really grow the festival for the next 25 years, where we'll be encouraging our emerging filmmakers to submit,
But this
and
exactly
to create.
In the cinematic trinity, you guys are here as well as here, as well as here. You've got a position in each three parts, and it's not just a supportive position, but it is a empowering position.
Absolutely.
And a learning position as well. I mean, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from being part of the festival and being part of all that the festival offers, which is great. 25 years is amazing. Another 25 years. Whew, I'm already tired, but yes.
Well, right? I know the work won't be completed in, my lifetime or your lifetime, but and it will live at USC, the legacy of this. But it's just the art of movie making and the empowerment that one gets by sitting in a theater or now on screen in your room or in your living room or wherever, watching that story and experiencing that story and getting engulfed in that storyteller. And again, it all comes back down to the human condition.
That's it.
If the filmmaker can, get in that way with their story,
right?
That's everything.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. Tell me those stories, and you'll have me hooked forever.
Right. So who tells a story matters, and
it does matter.
It does matter. It does matter. And I love the fact that there's 36 films this year directed by women.
That's amazing.
That's a lot.
What is that? 30-something%, 30+%.
It's 106 films we have, and 36 are directed by women.
extraordinary. You've got
Yes.
12 student films, you said,
Yes.
which is amazing.
And we have some experimental, which are really interesting this year. Very exciting.
This is the thing too, like we've moved away from what film was even just a decade ago or two
Yeah.
decades ago. We've moved into this place where film and cinema have harkened back to maybe an earlier stage where they were malleable, where you could push and pull at the edges, where you could stretch
Yeah.
the boundaries, where you could say, that doesn't satisfy my voice enough, I'm going to push a little further in a way I've never seen before. And
Yeah.
whether it works or not doesn't really matter as much as taking the risk and doing it and learning from it and how you are perceived as a storyteller and how your story comes across. You know, once the filmmaker hands the film over to audience, it's no longer the filmmaker's film, right?
It's
It becomes
not
the
at all.
audience's film. And whatever they think the film is about, that's what the film's about.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't match with what you thought the film was about, okay, first of all, don't worry. And
Yeah.
second of all, figure out what happened. Figure out if you really thought you were telling a different story and it didn't come across that way, but it came across in another way and it still hit people or whatever, then think about how your voice translates in the process of telling that story.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
push at every corner, you know,
Absolutely.
literally push at every corner.
Yeah. I have a film I've been pitching for, this is the 9th year. Takes a
Which
while
is-
sometimes.
Yeah, which is normal. This is
Yeah.
crazy, but all those
Totally.
stories, yeah,
Totally.
it's crazy.
And we've been close a couple of times, but it's such a unique point of view. And the visual I have for it is so, that has just never been seen before.
Yeah,
So,
which is why you're sticking with it, which is why you
Yeah.
know you have to make it, which is why
Yeah.
it's of you.
Yeah.
And then you hear this a lot too. You're like, I have a film and everybody likes it, but they say I can't direct it because I'm not experienced enough.
Oh.
Well, then that's not the film to give over to somebody else. If that
No.
film means that much to you, keep it, make it whenever you're going to make it. And if you really want somebody to sort of like just hire your script, just take your scripts on, then go write some scripts that people can pick up. That's different
Right.
than having something that's of you.
right.
You do. That's important.
Yeah. Well, I have an example, a quick example. In 1994, I pitched, and this is not really, this is more for television, but still, it's still storytelling, and who tells a story matters. And we produced a pilot of an all native television series, right? We went to Taos, we had $1,000, we acted like we had $1 million. Everybody donated down to the bagels and donuts in the morning.
Love it.
And we made the, press all over the place, and it was exciting, and it was all native, front and behind the camera. And so then I went and pitched it thinking, they're going to get it and it's going to go. And I went to, Spielberg, I went to this one, I went to Walper, I went to that one, and I'm saying, here's my baby. And they're like, yeah, well, you're like 25, 30 years ahead of your time. Like, this is not going to happen. Just straight in my eyes, in my face, Janelle, no one's ready for this.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so here we are now,
Yeah.
right? And slowly there's like 3 like tricksters coming from Canada in
Interesting.
January to CW, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another one that's being filmed right now that will be on network soon. And then there's another one that Ray is doing. So it's exciting time right now for people of color.
Stories matter. Stories are important, but
Yeah.
even more so is understanding your voice and not letting go. So, right? So
Yeah.
as women of color or of some quote other community, whatever that may be, as people of Indigenous people, Native people, anybody whose voice was previously considered other.
Right.
Those are the people I think that have to hold on to their voices the hardest.
Absolutely.
Those are the people that I am most interested in helping. Those are the people who
Right.
I feel have the more interesting stories. And those are the stories that I want to see.
Right. Yeah, me too. And it's interesting because, still it's like I was sharing with someone and I wanted to talk about all the successes, and they go, okay, well, all the successes are like, you know, Dances with Wolves or The Revenant, and they're really not, you know, from our point of view, right? And but then again, there's these new things that are stories that are being told still
Yeah.
that are not from our point of view.
Yeah.
It's been like a little
Yeah.
sidebar thing of, okay, we'll attach some natives to it,
No.
but it's still
No.
not
It's
our
the same.
point of view.
Exactly.
Like they're still not trusting us
No.
with our story.
So the one thing that I'm super enthused about, you know, I look up at Canada and I look at what Indigenous Native women are doing up there. I look at Janice Goulet, for
Phenomenal.
example. I look at
Say the name again. I interrupted.
Janice Goulet. She's got a
Yes.
new film coming out. But there's any number of people that
Yep.
I've worked with and that I know up there, women who are making amazing work.
Let's
that
move to
I've-
Canada.
Well,
We'll get our films made.
well, it's sort of a double-edged sword, though. You know, you have this system in Canada that's saying, okay, we want to help you and empower you and support you. And it does come down to saying, I'm paying attention to you, community. You
Right.
need help. You haven't had the help. You need a leg
Right.
up. We have to give it to you.
Yeah.
And that's important that somebody like a country like Canada has said, okay, we'll do that. On the other hand, you know, that Canada's got just as many problems as well with
Yeah.
regards to, especially with regards to the disappearance of so many young Native
Yes.
girls. So it's a double-edged sword. You have a lot of hardship that you've come through where you fought to get these stories out. And luckily you might be in a space where that support is available once you can get those stories out, but it shouldn't be this hard.
It really shouldn't be this
It
hard.
shouldn't be. And I want to transfer the good part of that down here to where I want
Right.
to say, okay, look, if you don't have everybody looking out for you and trying to help you, you got me.
Right.
I can do one thing. I can say, you got me. I can't
Exactly.
help 1,000 people, but maybe whatever I can do can get passed on. I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
standing here. I'm announcing, you got me. What can I do? Where am I?
Yeah.
Where do I get to be the best use to you?
Yeah.
And I think that's all any of us can do is say for ourselves, are we going to stand and empower the new stories and the new storytellers? Or are we just going to look the other way and let everything be the way it always was? Because that's the default that we slide into.
Well, that's the thing. Like when the pandemic hit, I was sharing with my friends, like, okay, there's going to be a couple of do-gooders, and that's going to get a buzz for a minute, and then
Yeah,
it's just going to
yeah.
go back into that
Yeah.
depression again. And
Human
so,
nature. Yep.
yeah, so that's why I love our festival. That's why I love Red Nation Celebration Institute.
Yeah.
You know, and that we have not, no matter if we have the money, don't have the money, you know, have millions, don't have, whatever it is,
Yeah.
we still produce, we're still there. And we want to let all of you that are watching this, all the emerging filmmakers, all the filmmakers that are, you know, winning awards all over the place, you have a seat at this table.
Yeah.
Always, always,
Good.
always. Connect, get involved, and be part of what we're doing here.
And even if you're just that filmmaker who just cracked open the door and said, what's going on in there? You have a seat at the table too.
Yeah,
Come on in.
absolutely.
Come on
Yeah.
in.
Yes,
Yeah.
we want you. Participate. We'll help you. We'll help you. That's what I love. And you shared about this, you know, about the love of the story and helping filmmakers.
Yeah.
That's, you know, and that's what we're all going to kind of miss, you know, being in person because of that
Yeah.
networking and hearing everyone's stories. And, but we're all going to do the best we can virtually. And
And hopefully we'll come out the other side stronger
absolutely.
and with even more connections than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look what's happening here.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to tap into or?
I think I just would want to say, you said something in the very beginning that I wrote down because I thought it was so empowering and so important. You know, it's funny, it's interesting that the clip you showed started off with Brando talking about the voice of the Native American Indian, because it really does come back down to voice, no matter what the time period, no matter what the era, it will come back to voice. Are we being heard? are we considered an other? Do we consider ourselves an other, or do other people consider us others? I'm a little sister. I feel like I fought my whole life to be heard, even though my family would say otherwise. They would tell you my voice was loud enough. But you said something important, I thought, when you were talking about systemic change through arts, through the arts. When we talk about giving up things because we don't have resources, or we talk about they can't possibly be as important as something else, when we start to make these value judgments about what we could do without, art seems to be kind of at the top of those lists. And I feel strongly that this is a slow downhill slope, a slow road to destruction. There is the possibility for systemic change through art, because it is through art that you can speak to others, no matter if they are the other, or if you are the other, or if there is no other.
Exactly.
You know, and so I just feel strongly that the more you think about your work as a filmmaker, as an artist, you are a visual storyteller, you are a filmmaker, you are an artist. Storytellers are so vital to our makeup as human beings. We need this mythology to get through the hard times. The more you can remember that you have, that whatever audience you have great power, great import to them with whatever it is you're telling them. So make sure that you mean what you say, and that you say what you mean. The more you can do that, the more I feel like that idea of systemic change through arts can really actually come true.
Yeah, I feel that absolutely. And I feel that moving forward for November 4th.
I mean, on Wednesday.
Like immediately moving forward, like right now, November 4th, we will know because the arts, the funding for the arts here in the States is 3%, right?
Yeah.
And those 3%, you know how much Native gets, like zip. So, and if there is anything, it really goes to health related stuff, not really the arts. So I really want to encourage anyone who's watching this or listening to think about ways how we can change that system, and how we can put the arts, like you said, at the top.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. I mean,
connected.
through teaching, you know, youth how to make a movie, it all relates to math and all those things that we learn in school, socializing, communication,
to
everything.
social,
everything.
All of this, exactly. It's
everything.
all connected. None of these things can be separated out.
And music.
And we're all, I have a feeling there's, and I have a feeling that come Wednesday, somebody will feel like they no longer have a voice. And what I want to encourage them is, you do have a voice. You just have to be maybe a little bit louder. Yeah. But whatever you do, don't stop using your voice. That's the only thing that's going to get us through.
Right. Exactly. And speaking of Brando, we're the only Native festival that has we created the Brando Award.
Ah, wow. Look at that.
This is the award that we give out to our.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. Philip Jesus, Ellen Hauser's son, created this for us. I have a great story for this.
Yeah.
But that'll be at another time. When we do the award ceremony, you'll hear about how she was created. But she is, so we asked the Brando family, the kids, if they would endorse the Brando Award. And of course they said yes. Aww. So we're the only festival in the world that has the Brando Award. So this year I was thinking, you know, our board and I were thinking, like, what message can we put out there that would be timely, still relevant? And that is, today we still don't have a Brando. And his voice on that clip from years ago is, you know, from the 70s, is still very relevant.
Yeah. Oh, he
still very relevant.
If you didn't see it, you just heard it. It could be today.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So I want to just say, woo, what a great session. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
I love working with you, and I can't wait to do more. And
Yay.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I hope whoever gets to watch this or sees this or whoever's out there watching now, I hope it's a little bit inspiring. I hope everybody's ready to do some merging of their creative and business lives and get into the mix, and that art, visual storytelling especially, just gets produced hand over fist right now.
Yeah. It's about showing up.
Yeah, it's about showing up.
Just take that step, that risk, and show up. And I'm going to ask one question before we wrap up this, lab. What is your favorite of all the years you've been in the industry? What's your favorite memorable, if there's one story, but it's probably several, but if you could pick one that impacted you the most?
Oh my gosh.
That made a difference for you to move forward, or that excited you or inspired you?
I would say there's maybe a quick series of 3 things.
Okay.
When I was a kid, little kid, my grandmother was a Hollywood dancer of the 20s. She was a showgirl and a dancer and an understudy to Joan Crawford in the 20s in Hollywood. And I would sit underneath the cherry tree in her backyard, which is this huge tree. And she would sit on the chaise lounge. She'd be smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer. And everybody else would be cleaning up after dinner. And we could see them in the house. It'd be dark, getting dark outside. We could see them in the house. And by the light of her cigarette, like that glowing tip, she would tell me stories of Hollywood in the 20s that riveted me and really forecast, like it made my career what it was going to be. I was never going to do anything else but go into entertainment because of that.
Right.
And then I think I used to tell my parents when I was 5, I said, you know, I know that writers don't make any money, so I'll go be an actress first because they make money. Clearly, when you don't know anything. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I had the opportunity to produce from start to finish a film. And that last moment of the last shot on the last day with 40 people in front of me who had given everything for this one singular goal, who had given their best and their most talented and their hardest, most difficult moments to the effort, all stood together in this one glorious moment of achievement. And I had never, ever, ever seen that before. I'd never felt that before. And I realized with this great emotional moment, that was pride. It was pride of community and pride of achievement and pride of just these people who were so talented in what they did and how they brought it all together. And then the capper on that, probably to take it all the way, is I was one of the programming team who programmed smoke signals for Seattle Film Festival.
Oh.
And I had been blessed to be part of the team. Sherman had let me bring the script into a script reading series. We had been able to workshop it through Seattle. Then I knew the production team closely, and I had been able to do a little bit of work. But the big thing was I was part of the team that programmed it to Seattle and brought it to Seattle. And up on stage, I can't remember who it was, if it was one of the producers or if it was Sherman, but I got thanked. Somebody said, "Thank you for seeing us," and Kathleen, and for bringing us into this world. And that was sort of the first time that it hit me that somebody saw me helping them get to audience, which is what the whole goal was help them get to audience. And somebody said, "Thank you for helping us get to audience." Those 3 things I think stand out as the most pivotal. I don't know what that says about me, but they do stand out as the most emotionally pivotal moments of why I do what I do.
Well, I want to thank you personally for when I made that call.
Aww.
And you said yes right away. No matter what it was, you just said, "We'll just do it and we'll make it happen." So I appreciate you, and I love everything about you, and I can't wait to work more with you. I'm all excited.
And right back at you.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
We do. Well, great.
Okay. Yeah. Well, again, thank you. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today for day 2 of the 25th RNCI, Red Nation International Film Festival. And I want to thank all of our generous sponsors for their support and for believing in the work that we do here at Red Nation Celebration Institute. And I will see you at the movies online. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you.